Welcome back, viewers. Today, we're going to take a closer look at Qualcomm and some of the cool products that this company has kind of talked about for this AI market. To kind of explain a lot more of what's happening here with Qualcomm, I have Nick. Good morning, Nick. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Jose? How's it going on your end?
Pretty good, Nick. Qualcomm is a company that I've kind of gotten a lot of comments about in the past few videos. So I'm happy you're here to kind of talk about it. They didn't have the best earnings, it seems, but right now they might get some benefit from this AI hype. Uh, Tell me a little bit more of what's happening here, Nick.
Yeah, eventually they might get some benefit from the AI hype, right?
Hmm.
Maybe as an intro, Jose, we should mention the last video segment where we talked about Intel before the viewers watch this. So if you haven't seen that yet, um, check out the video on Intel and them missing out on the current AI hype because currently, right now, AI training and inference, that's kind of the bubble that has driven up Nvidia and some other chip stocks right now. All of that stuff is being taken care of in a data center.
Hmm.
The computing power needed is way too powerful. You can't do AI training or inference. That's after the model has been trained, and then maybe you ask the AI model a question or you ask it to complete a task. That's called inference. That cannot be done on device yet, not yet. So we talked a little bit about ARM processors.
Yep.
Those are the chips that power like the iPhone and high end Android smartphones right now. Apple has been talking about using their devices powered by ARM chips to bring AI inference onto the device itself. So the AI model has been trained in a data center somewhere, and then you take the model and you basically load it up onto, let's say, the iPhone, and then all the inference can be done directly on the device itself. Interestingly, this news completely escaped our notice, I think, back in February, Jose, or at least it escaped mine. Qualcomm actually did a live demonstration of the first on device inference using stable diffusion.
Hmm.
Stable diffusion being a popular text to image AI model, and some examples of what the results of that look like, what it looks like there on the right. Um, the latency, basically the time it took from entering the command to the device spitting out a result, was 15 seconds, which is somewhat similar to current cloud inference performance. So,
Sometimes even better, Nick. I've been using
yeah,
which mid journey, and sometimes it takes 30 to 40, sometimes even a minute, to get some of these images. So that's pretty insane with the 15 second that they showed on their performance.
Discover the world of semiconductors without getting lost in the technical jargon. My new membership offers a perfect balance for investors looking to understand this exciting market. Using my electrical engineering knowledge and experience, I will release weekly exclusive videos ranging from quick 5-minute 101s to in-depth analysis, covering not just popular chip stocks, but aiming to explore every public semiconductor. Plus, join a private community of like-minded investors. Finally, I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
which makes sense, right? Because if it's on device, if you can, whenever you can pull some very high performance computing process out of a centralized location, in today's day and age, basically that means the cloud. You're removing the internet connection variables from the equation and getting
Hmm.
the compute done locally on your device. That should improve performance because you don't have to worry about that, all those extra variables with the internet connection and uh, network performance in the data center and whatnot. So Qualcomm was actually the first to be able to demonstrate this on device inference using stable diffusion. Um, and then next slide I provided here is just kind of what Qualcomm showed off as their architecture. Basically, the way they were able to do this was they were able to take the AI model and optimize it so that it could actually be put on the smartphone itself. And this is what becomes really crazy to think about, Jose, because again, these AI models are so big, they require so much computing power, of course, in the training part of the equation, but even the inference is most definitely a high, what would be considered a high performance compute workload, something that can be done in the cloud. But these ARM chips are getting powerful enough that it looks like with some more research and development, eventually some of these workloads can be pulled out of the cloud and stuck directly on the device itself. So currently, I guess the takeaway here is Qualcomm not a beneficiary from the current AI craze, but maybe it could be. Maybe we are seeing the stage set up for another Apple versus Qualcomm mobile chip battle within the next few years.
Definitely, Nick. I want to say this has been a very interesting process of bringing kind of this AI hardware into a lot of the consumer products. I mean, we've heard it. We've heard a little bit about it from AMD. Right, AMD, they're trying to kind of get some form of AI accelerator onto their x86 processor. They're already doing it on kind of a mobile, the 7040, which is a mobile processor. And there have been talks in certain conference. I believe one happened on May 23rd. I forget what was the conference called, but that was a question. Hey, do you guys proceed on moving along with this AI hardware into other kind of consumer products? And AMD kind of mentioned that at the moment they're open to the idea, but they're not going to really just start pushing it into all their processors, because obviously they have to see how much what benefit does it come. Is it really worth the extra price because it's going to be more money? Is it really worth the price, passing that price to the consumers at the end of the day, based on the benefits that they might get? So I think right now what's more important is going to have to see how some of these applications and somehow these developments, these software kind of develop over time, and to see if this is something that's going to be needed in the future. Because I would expect something like this obviously would add cost to the manufacturing of the chip, or whatever, and then that cost would have to kind of go, be passed down to the consumer to some extent. Any thoughts there, Nick, on that?
Yeah, what really interests me here is, right now, generative AI, which is kind of just one flavor
Mm-hmm.
of artificial intelligence, is kind of all the rage. But it, of course, we know Qualcomm also plays in the automotive space. They have big aspirations there. Of course, if the future of vehicles plays out like the tech industry hopes it will, um, increasing vehicle autonomy and eventually full self-driving vehicles are the way of the future, and that's AI. That's all
Mm-hmm.
that is. Um, and perhaps you could argue maybe a form of generative AI eventually, someday down the road. Again, to use another pun, maybe is the future of that. Um, because that's like what we're doing when we're driving. We have to like create ways to navigate the road on the fly as information hits us. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe some sort of generative AI on chip, on an automotive chip, is the way this will play out eventually. And then, of course, Qualcomm also doing tests with Microsoft to bring these same mobile-based ARM processors to the PC market, which was kind of a failed experiment in the past. But then Apple kind of proved that it was possible, and not just possible. It's actually amazing. You get amazing performance if you can pull it off with the MacBook, powered by the M1 and now the M2 chip, an ARM based processor.
Mm-hmm.
If Qualcomm can do that, of course, this also opens up the way to having, again, more on-device inference, generative AI inference on these super energy efficient but still powerful ARM-based processors, and maybe some hardware acceleration mixed in there to do it as well. So very interesting here to see what Qualcomm can come up with. And as far as we can tell on the surface, they're kind of helping lead the way in this department, in the AI inference department.
Yeah. I agree, Nick, and I think you opened up my mind. I think I was a little bit too close-minded here because when we think of AI right now, we're only really thinking about it, like you mentioned, in that form of generative AI aspect. But that's just the beginning. There's so much more, and you just reminded me that hey, with that automotive topic, Qualcomm is in a lot of IoT products, so maybe it might not be generative AI that they might need, but some form of other AI workload that can be integrated into all those IoT products that they're working with, and can definitely make this a big play for them in the long term of things. So thank you for that, Nick. Before I close out the topic, Nick, any final thoughts?
Uh, Go back, everybody, and watch the previous segments on Intel as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that provides a little bit of background here to what we were just talking about.
Definitely, Nick. Thank you so much for joining us. I know the viewers appreciate you, as so do I. So thank you for joining me, Nick.
Likewise, Jose. Thanks so much. Good to be back with you.